Right, let's get into this without any dawdling. A few months ago I thought I'd get into that whole third-party Transformers thing that's going on. You know, the ones, unofficial Transformer figures that don't use any of the brandings or logos, the official stuff, but all based on the characters we know and love. There's a lot you could get into when discussing third-party Transformers, but for those of you that are unaware, they're basically masterpiece style, usually in terms of complexity, and vary between being based on the mainline big hitters you see all the time, and a lot of the obscure characters that Hasbro and Takara are unlikely to ever do masterpiece figures based on. There's a few companies that do straight up knockoffs of official Transformers releases, usually with some better paint jobs and the like, but I'm not really into that sort of thing. I want to see the lads that are unlikely to get the high grade treatment. And that's exactly what I went for. This here is Fans Hobby Red Buzzer. He's a redeco of their own toy Ace Hitter, but based on the G1 Japan only Headmaster Jr. figure Go Shooter, who was redecoed for the West as a figure called Siren. This lad is based on Siren. I could have just said that to begin with. Now, the original Headmaster Juniors have barely ever been given the spotlight since their debut many years ago, and so making a third-party masterpiece style figure of them is a pretty neat idea. Fans Hobby have done the rest of the team along with their Western repaints, and I've got to say, after getting this lad, I am kind of tempted to get the whole set. As you can see, Red Buzzer is a standard masterpiece size figure, about the same size as Reboost and a little shorter than Shoki. He does a pretty great job of being a reinterpretation of the original toy, which I don't have. But as you can imagine, like many of the G1 toys, he was basically a fun, if slightly immobile figure. And Red Buzzer here goes for more of an anime style look to match up to how Go Shooter looked in the original cartoon Super God Master Force. Except like more grey here. There really isn't much difference between Red Buzzer and Ace Hitter. He's just grey instead of white, a fire chief's car instead of a police car. Grey does feel like a pretty unusual colour for a Transformer figure not called Megatron these days. I kinda dig it. There's surprisingly few paint apps on this guy. There's a bit of silver on the inside leg, and some yellow on the car headlights that you can't see here. There's also some on the Headmaster lad who we'll look at in a bit. The decals on the leg are tamper-graphed on and rather nicely done. I'm never sure if I prefer bare plastic to painted. I guess it comes down to the look you kind of want from the figure. The flat colours of the plastic really sell the anime look here, which works quite well for me. He comes with some stickers which I did apply, but I kind of regret them, especially these Fire Chief ones that have been peeling off on the sides. Most look fine though, and he did come with a few duplicates in case you mess up, but not these ones crucially. I'd say be selective about which ones you add. For instance, I didn't add the blue one to the visor because I like the way the red visor looks. Accessory-wise, Red Buzzer comes with two guns which loosely peg into his hands. Always find I'm popping them out by accident though. The guns can be folded up and either stored on his thigh or on these little grooves that are on his backpack. He also comes with an alternate face with an open mouth expression which can be switched out by simply popping the current one off and pegging the alternative on. Do like it when a face replacement gimmick is this simple and doesn't involve a screwdriver. His chest has a little flap you can open up to reveal his speed, strength and intelligence stats. They get activated by the flap being opened rather than the head being inserted, which is fine. Articulation wise, he moves exactly as you expect, plenty of range everywhere. He has a bit of an ab crunch. Head can wobble about as much as you'd like. Articulation's kind of boring to talk about, isn't it? With a figure of this type, you pretty much know what you're going to get. There's no obvious limitations to his range of movement, and that's all you need really, isn't it? I do like how the shoulder pads can be moved about to get your desired position for them. I like them to be on like this to give him a look of having a coat hanging over his shoulders. The joints on mine are mostly quite nice and tight, although there is a little bit of looseness in the hips and the ankles. Not been too much of a problem though. Shall we pop off his head? First thing I'd want to mention is this Headmaster has a sort of cap you need to remove to get him into his humanoid form. This is their way of interpreting the helmet piece that the original Headmaster Jr. toys had, although that piece doesn't become a little seat for the bot sit in when in vehicle mode. Kind of neat they kept that gimmick, but I don't think I would have minded if it just sort of moved out of the way when converting him to robot mode. The little guy here, who doesn't seem to have a name, has a little bit of paint on his face here, but mostly he's bare plastic, like the main robot itself. Surprisingly, he's pretty well articulated. He has elbows and everything. He even has an ab crunch. This tiny guy has an ab crunch. I guess all there is to do now is transform him into the car mode. There's a fair bit to the transformation, but it's not the nightmare-inducing experience I was expecting from a third-party figure. I'd say it's a slight step up from Reboost or the MP28 Hot Rod. There's a few small fiddly bits to fold out, and getting everything clipped into place can be a bit of a task. I find that's usually dictated by how well you get the knees folded up. Because almost everything pegs into place somewhere, if one part of it is out of place, it has a knock-on effect elsewhere. All that said, it's perfectly manageable. Definitely not the toughest transformation I have, but not one for starters. The result is one lovely looking car, especially considering the entirely matte grey finish of it. What obviously makes it stand out is the beautiful red windows. They've got a real clean sheen to them that I swear no other figures I have match. I'm a sucker for coloured windows on Transformer figures. There's some nice solid rubber tyres that allow the car to roll along in a silky smooth manner. Really is a smooth ride. Check out the headlights that can pop up out of the hood. Really gives you that 80s supercar feel. You can pop open the window and seat your guy in there with a nice futuristic looking interior. What's neat is that this seat is inside the back of the robot, which is fully and cleanly covered when in robot mode. You honestly wouldn't even know it was there when you're looking at the figure. There's a little nubbin his feet sit either side on, which is actually the ball joint for the ab crunch. Didn't even realise until I started looking at the construction of the figure a little bit more closely. In terms of extra functionality, there's a pair of tiny little grooves on the underside where you can slide the guns into place for storage. And there's another pair of tiny grooves where you can put the Headmaster helmet piece in there, but it's a bit of a faff to get it in place, to be honest. Give it a few tries though and you'll get there. The car may look a little bit out of place next to a more realistically styled car mode, such as Alternator's Ravage here, but it does look like a spot on take of the original toy's car form. I don't really have any other anime style car bots that are based on real vehicles that I can compare him to, but I imagine he looks great with them. All I have is Masterpiece Hot Rod, and he's not exactly in the same style. I reckon if you had fans' hobbies takes on Minerva and Cab, he'd probably fit right in. Gotta say though, overall one of my favourite car modes in my entire collection. There might be a video in looking at car modes. Maybe. In conclusion, I think I'm on board with these third party figures. Already been eyeing up a couple of others. Quite like the look of those tiny new age lads. And there's also this Dr. Wu's take on Squawk Box, which is compatible with the War for Cybertron Soundwave and Blaster figures that I quite want to get. I'm kind of hoping other fans' hobby stuff is this good as well, because they've been doing a lot of Unicron Trilogy figures recently, and I kind of want to get a few of them. Would be really nice to see him tackle some of the Decepticon Headmaster Juniors too. Who wouldn't want masterpiece figures of Horrible, Squeezeplay and Fangry? Red Buzzer is pretty dang good with only a few fiddly elements to him. If you're thinking of dipping your toe into the third party scene, he's a pretty good place to start, I think. So that's it for today. I'll hopefully have this video up before Masterpiece Getsui arrives, which I do plan on doing a review of. Eventually I'd like to get back to reviewing something that isn't Masterpiece style, but thanks to those Raiden train bots that are coming out, I've kind of been railroaded. That was an accidental pun, into doing those for a while. I do plan on chatting about animated leader class Bulkhead at some point. This lad is great. Until then, please do consider doing a like and subscribe. Maybe even comment too, because that's quite nice. You can follow me on Twitter at WildWillsHat, and I'll see you in the next review.